The question was, the question was, what do I think about the possibility of appeals? If I were the state, I would definitely appeal, because I want delay. Because if I appeal, it's going to be at least probably an 18-month delay. That gets me through the 2010 general election. Gets me probably through the next ledge session. So I could punt and delay. I know that there's a group of legislators that have asked the governor and the attorney general not to appeal. The idea of not appealing isn't something new to this state. Remember, this original Seattle School District case was one of three. I mean, there was Dorn 1, Dorn 2, and Dorn 3 trial court decisions. The state appealed Dorn 1 and lost miserably. They never appealed Dorn 2, they just followed it. They never appealed Dorn 3, they just followed it. And so there is precedent for the state not wasting taxpayers' money. I mean, it's ironic. They're going to say, hey, we don't have money to actually do what the Constitution requires, but we have money to appeal and delay this. I haven't heard, we haven't gotten a notice of appeal, but if I were the state, I would do it solely because I'd be trying to delay things. So there's a good chance. There is a chance. Any other questions? Yes?
Well, we're going to have to portion of the money from the state budget. As you said, there's plenty to fund education and say, now you got to survive on the rest of it, you're on your own.
That would be possible if the judge had said, I find the dollar number is X. And the judge did not do that. And that, frankly, no court has said the dollar number is X across the country at the first stage. Before a court's going to step in and say the dollar number is X, they're going to give the state a chance. And if the state drops the ball, the state gets hauled back in. The state says, okay, I'm sorry, I won't drop it again. The state gets hauled back in. And it's like, the third time when the judge says, look, I said what I meant what I said, I'm finding the dollar number is X, and you have to pay it. But at this stage, that's not something that's in the cards. What's the legal consequence of the legislature not doing anything? Every single legislator and every elected official can comfortably sit back and say, I'm going to violate the court's ruling, and there ain't nothing the court's going to do this legislative session about it, or probably even this year about it, because the judicial branch does respect the legislative and executive branches. Now, part of this ruling was the judge saying, look, you've got to do this, but you've got to show real and measurable, proceed with real and measurable progress. Now, the instances where I think you would have immediate relief, the judge ruled that the amount of money that was spent last year is so severely insufficient that it violates the Constitution. If the legislature drops a single cent from the current funding, they are flaunting this court's order. They cannot say in good conscience, Your Honor, I know you said what I spent last year was so grossly insufficient it's unconstitutional, but I've cut it some more. Let me off. Now, whether the judge is going to throw legislators in jail, no. But the legal system there is going to move slowly. What I think right now the strongest argument is the question of whether a majority of the elected officials in our state are actually going to have the courage to keep their word, have the courage to make the hard choices that it takes to actually do what they swore they would do when they swore last month to uphold the Constitution. And it will be hard. It will be very hard. And go ahead.
Is there a possibility by shifting, if that would become a law, that they would be shifting costs and it would be more cost based on us?
It is a stopgap measure because what it will do is it will reduce the number of districts and the number of parents whose kids are suffering pain. That's why it's a stopgap measure. It has nothing to do with the legal ruling. The court made it perfectly clear that using any local funds, whether it's a local tech levy, local M&O levy, a capital bonds, any local money for public schools that provide the knowledge and skills and state standards is unconstitutional.
Right, and so I'm asking the legislation, if it passed, which would increase the local contribution to basic ed, and would that be shifting and dropping the money that the state provides, and would that just fit with what you just said?
Well, again, if what the state is doing is they're still keeping the same amount of money, but they're saying, hey, you other districts that actually live in wealthy areas or actually have voters that will approve a higher levy, you can reduce the pain that my constitutional violation is causing your kids by charging more or having a higher levy. It doesn't address, changing the levy lid doesn't address the constitutional violation. In fact, under this court ruling, there's no school district in this entire state should have to run a single M&O levy, tech levy, or capital bond to fully fund their schools.
Right, that's why my
None.
And that's my question, so if they reduce the...
From your perspective in there, or was this your dream ruling?
It was the dream ruling. The court in this ruling went as far as I think a judicial branch officer can go the first round. I mean, it is. And now the question is going to be whether the other two branches live up to the oath they took.
This is a follow-up question to the one you indicated on John Campbell North under the current sham that is the game we're playing.
Well, how little they can do and still get by will depend in large part about how they phrase what it is they're doing. And the judge, the test here is real and measurable. Proceed with real and measurable progress. And it's all going to turn on what the numbers are, how they phrase them, what they're for. I mean, for example, if the legislature were to say, you know, we spent, and I forget off the top of my head what the number was, but we spent tons of money on this consultant that came up with this transportation study, and we know to the dollar how much we are underfunding transportation for every single school district, at least as of 2 years ago. To show that real and measurable progress, we're going to fund, increase funding, not take it away here so we can put it there. We're going to increase funding for that amount this coming year. I mean, that would be some real and demonstrated progress. If they take the testimony from, let's say, Jennifer Priddy, who laid out very carefully how the NERCs themselves are currently underfunded by $585 million. If the legislature were to say, you know, we're going to actually start funding that. It's not perfect. Maybe it should be a little higher, a little lower, but that would be demonstrating real progress. How much they have to increase as opposed to what they can sort of punt and say, well, it's hard for me to obey the law this year, I'll do it next year. It all depends how the sausage comes out at the end. I think I'm being cut off.